G'day, I'm Paul. So there's been a huge surge of Chinese utes coming to Australia and they're getting better and better. A little while ago we reviewed the Great Wall Motors Cannon Ute. We did the L version, which is kind of the mid-spec. A lot of you were asking about the top spec, the X, and that is it right there. And today we're going to do a review of this thing. Now, I want to give you just a little bit of background here. In this price bracket, you're getting a lot of these high-end Chinese utes, but you're also getting the very much lower end of the premium brands like your Ranger, Hilux, and that kind of thing. So there is a lot of demand for these, especially for those people that aren't interested in brand names. So the Cannon X is priced at a little over $40,000, but if that's too expensive, the whole range starts off at just over $30,000. This competes with things like the Mitsubishi Triton, the LDV T60, and the SsangYong Musso, amongst others. Today we're going to do a detailed review of this thing. If you do want to skip ahead to other parts of the review, you can use the time codes up on the screen there, or if you're on YouTube, you've got chapters below down there. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon. That way you'll find out every single time we drive one of these Chinese utes. In terms of your colour palette, you've got 5 external colours to pick from. All but white are going to set you back about $600. Now, you do notice these on the road because the grille, it is enormous and it's all chrome, so they stand out a lot. And I am fairly certain that is the world's biggest car logo on the front of a car. So these do really stand out. And I think they look good. Like, if you have a think about where Chinese utes have come from, the previous version of this called the Steed, it just looked shocking. It was really, really bad, and it was a bad car as well, so it kind of suited the design. But this actually looks really good, and I think they've gone to a lot of effort to modernise it and just give it that stylish appearance out on the road. So you've got your big grille there, you've got holes there for your cooling, and as you come down here, it goes to a sort of a darker grey setup with the number plate holder. Headlights, you get full LED headlights with an LED daytime running light and a progressive LED indicator as well. So again, this makes it stand out in traffic, and it kind of gives it a bit of a meaty appearance. Fog light down the bottom there. Whip around to the side, we've got 18-inch alloy wheels down here on highway terrain tyres. Now, I've got to apologise for how dirty this is. We've been filming a whole bunch of utes here over the past few days, and it has been raining, and as a result of that, it is dirty. But beneath that, you have a machined finish and then a black coating on the inside there. No wheel arch protectors. It's common in SUVs, but here in utes, they kind of just go with body-coloured protection for the wheel arches. The interesting thing about this and some of the other cheaper utes in the segment is that they're moving to 4-wheel disc brakes. It is unheard of in Hilux Rangerland, unless you go to something like a Raptor, to actually get disc brakes on the rear. So it is interesting that the less money you spend, the more advanced your braking technology is. So yeah, just an interesting point there. Up here, you've got a little bit of a side garnish with that Great Wall Motors logo. Chrome on the mirror cap with an indicator built into there. Camera here for the 360 camera. You get privacy glass, a set of roof rails, get a set of side steps on the side here. You get yourself a sports bar, and then come around to the back. You've got LED taillights. These again look good and stand out at night time. Just to put the size of this into perspective, it's slightly longer than a Ford Ranger. It comes in at just over 5.4 meters long. So it's got a pretty big profile out on the road, and you will definitely notice that it feels and looks bigger than some of the other utes on the market. Now, there's an interesting setup here. Let me open this tray for a second. Fold that down. Look at that. It actually has hydraulics on the side there. So opening and closing it is very easy, and that's a great feature because it means it's not going to slam down every time you open it. In addition to that, you've got a step. So if I pull this out, you would have seen something like this on the Ford F-150, and I think this is a great innovation, especially if you've got stuff you need to get out. When you get to, I'm not even that old, but I feel old. When you get to my age and you try and get in and out of here, my knees like buckled doing that. So this is a very useful thing to have. Pop that back in there. So in terms of your tray, you've got this spray-in bed liner. It is just over 1.5 meters long and 1.5 meters wide. So it's a pretty generous setup in the back there. You've got hooks down the side here, but no 12-volt outlet or other power outlets, which is a little bit disappointing. It would have been nice if they could fit something like that in there. I'll close this up for a sec. You've got a 3,000 kilo braked towing capacity, and you can also use this to step inside and get your things out as well if you need to. So really comprehensive setup there. Let me know what you think about the design. Do I just think it looks good, or do you guys reckon it looks good as well? Let me know in the comments. Okay, so we are inside the GWM Cannon. Let's start off with the key. So you have a remote start function up the top. You have a panic button, lock, unlock, bit of chrome on the side, and then the GWM logo on the back. Proximity sensing key, so you can just grab the door handle, it'll unlock, and then you've got a push button start just there. I think this is really nicely presented. Outside of this, or the piano black stuff, this really just feels nice and premium, and you kind of don't expect it at that $40,000 price marker. You've got soft touch material along the dash there with that faux stitching setup. Got this sort of architecture style stuff there, and then soft touch finishes down the center. This is where you're going to be resting your knee, so you need that kind of stuff. Along the door there as well, you've got that diamond quilted finish, and that continues over onto the seats where you've got the diamond quilting there as well. So they've drawn a bit of inspiration here from luxury brands and sort of integrated it into the work ute. So big tick there. What about your touch points though? So that is kind of firm, and then on the door it's soft. How soft is it? Well, we've got our gyrometer. We've tested the main surfaces in this cabin. If you want to see how this car compares to others that we've tested before, have a look at the link in the description. Build quality, that's okay. It's a little bit wonky there, but sort of fairly solid. Let me know in the comments, have you bought one of these? What's it been like sort of longer term? Door test. Sounds nice and very solid. Let's talk about infotainment. So you've got this 9-inch infotainment screen. It's interesting because you have it as a touchscreen, but down here as well, you've got a knob for volume control, which is good because it is sometimes difficult on these screens to go up and down with volume without that knob there. It's pretty basic though. So you've got AM and FM radio. There's no DAB plus digital radio. And this seems to be a theme amongst a lot of these Chinese utes. They just don't have digital radio for some reason, which is a bit of a shame, but you do get a 6-speaker sound system. You get voice recognition here in the top spec model, and also smartphone mirroring, both Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. They are wired though, so no wireless setup. I'll show you what Apple CarPlay looks like. So full screen, let's see how quick that is. It's not too bad, sort of tiny bit laggy, but it does the job. The good news is that even though there isn't satellite navigation built into this, once you have your smartphone hooked up, you pretty much get the latest maps and all that sort of stuff. And this is what Android Auto looks like. So again, full screen integration. Let's see how quick that is. That's actually not too bad. It's nice and fast. So good setup there. I mentioned also ahead of the driver, you get a screen here in the top spec model. So it's a digital instrument display. You can see that all sort of lights up in the center there. There is something frustrating with this though. So you'll notice there's warnings there. While you're driving, if you have the lane keeping assistant on, every single time it does anything with regards to lanes or the steering intervention, it stops you from changing the menus in the center until you've pushed and held OK. So you'll see here, if I use these buttons, nothing happens. So I have to push and hold OK. It will then clear that, and then I can go through the different menus and do what I need to do. This becomes a problem when you're driving because the lane departure stuff intervenes all the time, and to make any changes you need to then push and hold this. So I just wish there was a button that you could press to just make that work without having to just agree to this warning every single time it comes up. So yeah, a little bit frustrating, and I think in a way the step down from this car, the Cannon L with its just analog gauges, is probably slightly better than this digital setup, at least until they fix this and get it working properly. Let's talk about safety. So you have autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian detection. You have a lane departure warning and a lane keeping assistant. You've got blind spot monitoring just over here. You have rear cross traffic alert. You have an auto dimming rear vision mirror, radar cruise control. On the parking front, you have front and rear parking sensors and a 360 camera. I'll show you what that looks like. That is super high resolution. I love that. So very good detail there, decent detail on the top down view. And then you can select a couple of different angles as well, so you can get the full wide angle at the rear. What you can also do is get this view down the front, and then you can also look down the sides of the car as well, so you can see exactly what those front tyres are doing. So yeah, really good setup with guidelines as well. So practicality, and we'll start with your connectivity. You've got 2 USB ports down here, one 12-volt outlet, a wireless phone charging pad, and a secret USB outlet up the top here, which is for dash cam integration. Then where are you going to put your phone? Well, phone can live, let's get rid of this cable, down on the wireless phone charger, or you can pop it here in the cup holder. That's all pretty straightforward. Coffee cup. So this little section here moves forwards and backwards, and that reveals your cup holders. You've got 2 sizes. You've got a small one, which fits your coffee cup easily. Then you have a deeper one, which is designed for a bottle. Both of those have like a little arm on them to stop the bottle from walking around too much. And then inside the door, you can fit your small bottle. Let's see if we can fit our big bottle. Not really. And sort of, yeah, no, it'll fall out if we put that down there, so that doesn't fit. More storage, center console here. So as I mentioned, that goes forwards and backwards. And then under there, you have a pretty deep storage slot. You've got a glove box down here. Not a bad size. And finally, your sunglasses holder. It's not here, but here. It's a handy little spot. And in terms of comfort, you have single zone automatic climate control. You've got heated seats for the first row, power seat adjustment, so forwards, backwards, backrest as well, and then you can also lift the base of the seat. Seats are pretty comfy, so they look cool with that sort of quilted design on them, and they just hug you in nicely. Steering wheel offers both tilt and reach adjustment. Then in terms of our reach test, yeah, all easy to reach, just this stuff. You need to lean in just a little bit to catch the outer edges of those controls. Now, before I hop into the back, I'll run you through this setup. It's kind of unique to this segment because you've got a 60-40 split folding seat, which you don't really see in Utes. So that means you can drop this side. It gives you a little bit of storage behind the back and access to one of the two top tether points. Then what you can also do is lift the base, and that's where you'll find a warning triangle plus a couple of other tools. And I love the fact that that stays up on its own. Same story on this side. You give this tab a pull. You get access to the jack and your other top tether point. And then same story under here. You get a little bit of storage space and can lift both of those up if you want to load something in sideways. All right, we grab the handy handle, get ourselves in. That's a great amount of leg room. So plenty of knee room, toe room is excellent, and headroom is fantastic too. You can see the seats follow that theme at the front. It's quite a premium looking setup. You've got map pockets back here, air vents. You have a power socket here. So that's AC up to 120 watts. You also have a USB charging port. There's a center armrest here. No cup holders though, so it is just for resting your arm. But you can put your bottle inside the door if you need to. There's plenty of storage space there. So great space back here. Very impressed with the amount of room. And, you know, it really just, it is hard to find things that I don't like about this at this price point. We've hit the road in the GWM Cannon. Look, let's start off with the engine. So 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder diesel engine makes 120 kilowatts of power and 400 newton meters of torque. Not really the most, and you kind of feel it behind the wheel when you sort of bury the foot. It moves, but it's very leisurely, and it does this thing that a lot of the Chinese Utes do, and even the SsangYong does as well. When you take off from a standing start, if I put the foot down, it will just do nothing, everything. But if I then come to a stop and then load up the throttle and then take off, it's instant. So it seems odd to me, why would you not just make it instant? There's this lag there for some reason. I think it could all be solved with an ECU tune, but it is there anyway. It's all mated to an 8-speed ZF automatic transmission. Now ZF, great gearboxes. They use them in a lot of high-end European cars, so it's good to see them fitting it here. And the gearbox itself is one of the highlights of the package. It just is very responsive, and it's always ready to rumble as well. You don't ever have to wait for it to pick the right gear. It's just intuitive enough to give you everything that you need. Let's talk fuel economy. So GWM claims a combined figure of 9.4 litres per 100 Ks. We are currently sitting on 12.4, which is significantly higher. I think it is worth explaining, this car has been with us over the last couple of days on off-road shoots, so it has been doing a lot of idling and off-road driving. So I would expect that figure to be a little less if you're doing just your typical city and highway run. One thing I'll run you through here is the drive mode selector. So you've got 3 modes to choose from. You have Sport, Eco, and Normal. Now the interesting thing is Eco actually decouples the front axle entirely. So it's just rear wheel drive. So you do feel the steering becomes a little lighter because you're not sending any drive to the front axle. And it also saves fuel because you don't have to send torque to the front axle. Sport mode makes the steering heavy and puts it into its all-wheel drive mode. And then Normal, it's just an auto adaptive mode. So when it does detect slip, it will then send torque to the front axle, but it's always ready to go and engaged. There's a curious thing here as well. I saw this first on, I think Hyundai i30. I had this button on the steering wheel. What it does is it allows you to change the amount of weighting in the steering wheel. So you've got comfort, light, and then sports. And in sports, it's like a McLaren. It's just really heavy. So I guess it's good that it offers that. But yeah, not something that I'd probably be using all that much. One thing that will get old very quickly is this sound. Every single time you do pretty much anything, it's making that beeping sound, including changing the drive mode. So yeah, I don't know that there's a way to switch that off. Let me know if there is. Okay, let's pop this into sport mode. Pop it through our corner as well, see how it feels. It's actually pretty good. You've got electrically assisted steering, so you get enough feel through the rack. It's not amazing, but it's not the worst I've ever tested in this price bracket either. And it will hold the gear in sport, so you actually get a little bit of pickup as you power out of a corner. Obviously not designed to be driven like that, but if you do decide to go for a fun drive, it's probably not going to make you the most disappointed person in the world. Our turning circle comes in at 13.1 meters. Pretty big. I think that is going to be 3-point territory. Yep, very much 3-point territory. Yeah, even in this eco mode where it decouples the front axle, it's still quite a big turn. But the good news is steering is pretty light at low speeds, so parking should be a piece of cake. GWM doesn't have an official 0 to 100 time, but we've put it up against our stopwatch, and this is how it went. Let's talk about ride. So look, it's interesting because the ride is soft. It's almost too soft, and as a result of that, you find that it floats over bumps, and where we're driving now on this country road, it really is just picking up everything, and it becomes a little nauseating after a while. Being leaf sprung, it is just the way it is with leaf spring vehicles. You have to put some load in them for them to settle, but I think the damping could do just a little bit more work. We found with the LDV T60, for example, tuned in Australia, and it feels much nicer than this on the same kind of terrain. And on the noise front, it's actually quite pleasant in here. So it's not dead silent, it's not a Rolls Royce, and it's not quite as quiet as the SsangYong Musso, but even if you get stuck into the throttle, it's just a light diesel thrum. It doesn't really sort of invade the cabin, and it's not your dominant sound. And likewise on the road, you will notice tyre noise as you traverse coarse chip roads, but for the most part, it's not really too bad. So visibility, what's it like? It's good. The driving position is fairly high. I can see clearly down the fronts there. It is a long vehicle, so thankfully that reverse camera is great, and the wing mirrors are huge as well with the blind spot monitor on the pillar there. Visibility out the back is good as well. The only downside is that center headrest sits right in your way, so I'd probably be getting rid of that if you bought one of these. Okay, let's do a little bit of light off-roading. So you have four-wheel drive high range, four-wheel drive low range. As I talked about when we went out for a drive, you can put this into a two-wheel drive mode. I assume when it's in this mode here that it is just locked into four-wheel drive. You do have a rear diff lock as well and hill descent control. In terms of the actual specs, you have 194 millimeters of ground clearance, which really isn't a huge amount for a dual cab ute that has off-road intentions. You've got a 27-degree approach angle, that's the angle of the face you can approach before you hit anything at the front, and a 25-degree departure angle, which is the same but in reverse. Now, if none of that makes any sense to you, click up here to watch our four-wheel drive controls explained video, but let's give this a crack. I've just left it in just its standard four-wheel drive mode, and I'm hoping it will be able to get up here just on its own accord without the rear diff locked. See what happens. And then we'll use hill descent control on the way down. Look, because of that soft ride, it's actually quite comfortable going up here. There it is, just a little bit of touchiness there. But for the most part, it's getting up here without any dramas at all. Cool, that was good. Okay, let's put the hill descent control on, and we'll see what it's like on the way down here. Okay, I've let go of the brake. Wow, it's noisy. Probably a little fast for my liking, so I'm going to take over there because that was kind of running away from us. Okay, let's see how it goes through here when we drop a few wheels in. Yeah, look, it's coping with that okay. We haven't touched down anywhere there, which is good. I would have thought with 194 mil of ground clearance, it probably would have. But yeah, I think that hill descent control is probably just a tiny bit too quick. Just needs to be reined in just a little bit. Let's go through our seesaw and the offset mogul. This is where we're going to see how rigid the chassis is and whether there's any flex. Switch that parking sensor off. Ooh. Anyway, it's just uneasy going through that. Okay, here we go. So we'll get it into a spot here where it's got two wheels off the ground. There it is. So it's sort of rocking on its own. No dramas at all. We did LDV T60 through here, and the door caught on the close, which meant there was a lot of body flex. Here it's all very rigid. I'll be keen to see when we get to our offset mogul here how it copes with without the rear diff locked, because we're going to have one wheel entirely in the air. It should, in theory, basically set itself up so that it can just power through it using traction control and the high range four-wheel drive. So here we go here. We're coming up to that now. We've got that wheel in the air at the back. I'm going to just roll off the throttle now. We'll see what happens. Yeah, there you go. We're not going anywhere. It's engaging traction control. And if I stay in it, we will eventually move, but nothing is going on. So let's give that another crack, this time with the rear diff lock engaged, and we'll see if we can actually get out of there without having to go too crazy with the throttle. Okay, let's give this another shot. We'll run through. We have the rear diff locked this time around, and I'm hoping now it'll be fuss-free. Just before, I was able to get out of there just by staying in the throttle and letting the traction control do its thing, but it got pretty messy, and it really shouldn't take that much effort to get out of something as simple as that. So hopefully this time around we'll get it set up in the same way, and hopefully the rear diff lock will do its thing. So there it is there, where one leg off the ground, rolling out of the brake. Piece of cake, it gets out of there without even trying. So good, I like that. I like the fact that you can use the diff lock in high range, and that it is as easy as that to activate it to really just get yourself out of a basic bind. Okay, so the GWM Cannon. Just by chance, we've literally been testing all of the, I guess, non-hype brand utes at the moment. So the Sangyong Musso, the LDV-T60 Max, and then this thing as well. I'll tell you what, it really just feels head and shoulders above the others in terms of it being a complete package. For just over $40,000, you are getting just an incredible amount of features. My favorite being the step into the tray at the back, the fact that it also sits on a hydraulic arm as well. I think it really just gives you everything that you need. It is a little let down in terms of the engine. It could use a little bit more punch, and the ride probably needs a little bit more work as well. But if you're not too conscious about brands, you really should be looking at this and discounting the others in the segment, because it is right where it needs to be. So let me know in the comments section below, have you bought one of these? I'm seeing stacks of them out on the road, so it does look like people are buying them. I'm curious to know what your buying experience has been like and what ownership is like as well, because I can see why people go to the big brands. You've got lots of dealerships and that kind of thing. But let me know what you think about this and how it's been for you in the comments section below. If you did enjoy this video, please make sure you like it and share it with your mates. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon. But until next time, drive safely.